Welcome back. Well, just to put this out, now the emergency numbers that the government launched yesterday is 112. But the FRSC, their own emergency number is 122, and it's still operational as we speak. So the one that was launched yesterday by the government is 112, but FRSC, that's Federal Road Safety Corps, emergency number is 122, and it's still operational. So I see that people are still asking questions, just to put that out there. Don't worry, you're nothing to do with you. Well, let's move on now. We've got two gentlemen here with us. We have Mr. Adeyemi Adeniji, who is an investment consultant and the Chief Executive Officer of Starlink Global. We also do have Oji Udemezwe, who is an economist. The government, gentlemen, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you.
Well, several measures have been announced by the government in terms of how to also ensure that in the advent of this COVID-19, the economy still keeps going through. Let me start with you, Mr. Ade. I mean, having listened to the authorities, I mean, there'll be more measures that will come through. How far-reaching do you think those measures are?
Well, it's a positive thing that the government thought, CBN this time around, thinking they need to reduce the rate of people that has loans with the CBN. But the issue is, what is the percentage of people that have borrowed this money from the government? So how does it trickle down to the last person on the street? So we strongly believe that there should be coordination of these government institutions so that the impact will be felt across the entire value chain. But
you've expressed concern about how this trickles down.
Yeah.
What do you think? How do you think this is likely to play out, and what would you propose?
Well, the economy is in bad shape for so many reasons. We have been operating a monolithic economy. We depend only on oil. We have ignored other ones that will have saved us at the crisis time like this, like agriculture, like export, like mining. All those ones have been jettisoned. So we need to have a policy that will integrate all government programs in such a way that there's going to be a synergy of all the government institutions, that once there is a program, like the economy team, the federal government economy team, should look at how to bring succor to Nigerians, not a fire brigade approach that we just saw. Okay, there's a problem, we cut the rate. We should borrow from what happens in the developed nations. We should have immediate, medium-term, and long-term plan that will really bring everybody into the basket of economic prosperity.
You think that we are working in the policies are all in silos right now?
Yeah, there are so many policies of such that are not working.
What do you think?
Well, I must commend the central bank for the intervention they announced, even though these interventions have actually been existing, because we've been running an economy, that's been threatened in the past months. Nigerian economy has not been fantastic in the past months. So these interventions are not entirely new. All right, but we need something that is directed specifically at those who are at risk at this point in time. We need an emergency. Companies that may cease, activities because of the COVID, entertainment industries, even farming. But then, in the midst of all of that, aviation, company and all the affiliated, activities, banks are going to be heavily affected soon, because a lot of activities will slow down. And once the financial sector is affected in any crisis, obviously it will affect a lot of other sectors. So in all of this,
we'll pick it up from there. Just pardon me. We'll pick it up from there when we'll come back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. You were making a point, Mr. Udemezwe. Please go ahead.
Okay. What I'm saying is that the central bank always tries to do their best to support this economy, and I commend the governor of the central bank. But the central bank cannot actually carry the trouble of this country on their shoulders. We expect monetary policy activities. We expect fiscal policy activities to solve our problems. I was just saying a while ago that while the central bank is trying to help with changing loan terms, the interest rate, the tenor and all of that, and also encouraging banks to do the same, and maybe also find a way to work with banks, so that loans that should ordinarily be termed in delinquent will be stepped down and be allowed some more time to get better. These are financial issues. But on the fiscal side, what are we doing with the Ministry of Health? What are we doing, to provide facilities? At this point, the actual intervention I expect from the federal government, whether central bank is going to take that on, because now they are playing the role of fiscal and monetary policy, institutions. We need government to push out money to ensure that we have enough test kits. We have enough.
But the CBN announced 100 billion naira for the health sector, especially, because of this.
That's, general announcement. There's no specific rules and regulations or provisions on how this fund will be extended, when it will be extended, what exactly the purpose is. CBN is a monetary policy authority concerned about, interest rates, inflation, and all of that. So their monetary policy is not what I'm talking about here. We're talking about fiscal spending in the actual tools and facilities and things that we need. Like even in America, they have a big concern now. In the next 2 weeks, are we going to run out of drugs? Are we going to run out of masks? Inhalers and all of those kind of things that they need to tackle the issue. Doctors need to be safeguarded. If they don't have the kit to be able to handle patients, they can't risk their lives. So government has to be sure. To start with, do we have ready isolation centers in all the 36 states of this nation? Very important. We talk about self-isolation. Social distancing is a wonderful phrase now, the catchphrase. Social distancing. How many of us can afford to distance ourselves? In the families where we live today, how many of us can afford to lock ourselves down in a room? In Nigeria, an average family, people, stay 7, 8 in a room. That's what statistics says. Now, how can you isolate yourself in that kind of situation? In all the kinds of slums we have in this country, face me, I face you, where a whole lot of people, about 50 people, use the same toilet, one toilet, and they line up every morning. How do you isolate yourself? Even all of us who are middle class, who live in maybe a 3-bedroom apartment with our families, how do you isolate yourself? Isolation is very costly for an average Nigerian. Maybe 1% or 2 can afford to do that. What has government spent to ensure that we have ready isolation centers in the neighborhoods near everyone, in the states, in the local government? This thing has to trickle down.
How practical do you see
that's where
that?
The leadership comes in. That's where, beyond the grammar we speak, we announce intervention fund, we do that because other countries are doing the same thing. We have to look at the peculiarities of our environment.
Okay.
What I expect now, and I was going to come to that, the president should, whether in person or not, because we've been expecting the president to talk to us. We elected him. We need to hear what he concerned about our health. We haven't had that yet. But what I expect now is that whether he's going to talk in person or in proxy, we expect an action where stakeholders now will find a way to meet. Of course, we're trying to curtail meetings, but whether they're going to meet by Skype or whatever, let all the commissioners of health of all the states, have a strong stakeholders meeting. Let some chiefs
that conversation about the stakeholders meet. Well, the commissioners of health have. Let's just quickly come back to Mr. Adeniji. The concern, is real. That he mentioned the aviation sector, and we also read it on the front page of one of the newspapers this morning. That 22,000 jobs plus are at risk now. How, in the face of prevailing economic circumstances, how do you see this and several other activities playing out in our economy?
Well, I think I said it earlier, that the major problem we have in this country are the policymakers. Let me just give you an example.
Is it a problem of policy or implementation?
Both. Let me just give you 2 examples. 15 years ago, we are talking about aviation, land borders. Have we checked what happens at our ports? Vessels are coming in from different locations, from China, from South Korea, from Europe, bringing in goods. Have we checked? Do we have any action plan against that? Let me put this one. 15 years ago, the federal government decided to lease out the port to some people, some companies, APMT, PTML, Tinkan, TITC. And the policy, it was signed for 25 years. No attempt to review. And today, our destiny, economy, is in the hands of those people, and they do it what they want. Government cannot control, MPA doesn't have control over them, and today we are talking about coronavirus. And we are not looking at what comes in from the seaports. Because we are only concerned about what happens on our land borders, how do we...
I think some of the initial comment they made at the time was that, coming in from the port, vessels stay longer than, I think, the suggested isolation period of 7 and 14 days, but that is something that they'll keep looking into to see how they improve upon it.
Do we really check anybody in the ship? Today, you have a ship coming to Nigeria, will be on our water for 28 days. The impact on the economy is even huge because we have to turn them back.
Okay.
But
in terms of those policies that have been announced, I mean, as a business person who is an investment person, how do they affect you? Do they address the fears that you have?
Of course not. It won't.
What are those fears and why do you think they don't?
What we need to do is to go back to the basics. We cannot be building something on nothing. As it is today, we don't have any strong economic policy. Sincerely, we are just recently, there was a discussion in UK about policies and mirroring Nigeria. They find out that Nigeria doesn't follow any rule. Nothing. Nothing works. You don't have any specific thing that can be said, okay, this is how Nigerian will work.
I wonder what they mean by that, because there are rules here and
let me just explain to you. You have economic policies. You have countries that will look at, okay, these are their rules, this is the theory, this is the hypothesis, and if something like this happens, this is the direction to go. Look at the economic policy in America. When there was trouble, financial crisis, the stock market will collapse. In Nigeria, it doesn't follow any rules. Look at the currency issue now. You can imagine the way CBN is even trying to manage the FX problem. When you throw a stone into the water, what do you expect? You expect bubbles. Everything has crashed. We're only trying to damage control what is there. We need to just go back and look at what exactly do we need to do to solve our problem. If we need to go back to the basics, to the foundation, and start to lay it, it's better than...
We have an emergency.
Right.
An emergency, which is coronavirus.
Correct.
We should be talking about what policies should be announced in Nigeria to, first of all, curtail the spread of this virus. Economy is all about human activities, all right? If you talk about GDP, you see the element of consumption. With corona, personal consumptions will reduce. Corporate consumption will reduce. Expenditure, government expenditure will be seriously affected. Investments will practically cease. So we talk about how are the people's lives affected.
How do you mean personal consumption will reduce when people are at home?
Okay, now when you are at home, you just eat. Now, if you are to go to work, if you are going to, now you are home, you just eat food, and that's basic. Now, hotels will stop getting customers. Their turnover will reduce. Bars, eateries. If you watch what's happening in the rest of the world, most restaurants are now totally empty.
So, in a way, you don't think those policies address these immediate challenges?
No, we need policies. The policies we have right now don't address this.
The ones that have just been
announced. Because in the U.S., they look at policies from the point of view of what do we do to support companies that are going to struggle through this period. Legacy companies that we can't afford to allow them fail.
Okay, let's talk about
what are the policies do we address individual life? Talked about the U.S. trying to give some social support to individuals.
Okay.
Now that's the U.S. In Nigeria, what do we need to do to
having identified that, let's take a look at some of those suggestions.
Okay, so
what would you say?
For Nigeria, we have our own peculiarities. We cannot, have a government that will announce a 1 trillion, 2 trillion personal dollar to people. We don't have data. We don't have the system and structure to support that. But what can we do at this point to, first of all, prevent this spread? We are just carrying about as if this is just one long story. Very soon now, we will start hearing, cases in thousands. My concerns are, how are people going to get this virus if we don't act fast?
Yeah,
so we look at activities that are very prominent in this country, church activities, work activities, market activities, transport activities, particularly by road. Yes, we have a national union of road transport workers, but how many people get checked when they get to the park?
I hear
so Nigeria should be concerned about how do we spend money.
We get
to
your point,
proper,
but suggest to us. I mean, they've announced several policies. There are several people, even because now the fuel price has been cut down from 45 to 25 actually. So
that's responding to the fact that oil price has also
So what
gone
do you
down.
suggest? What kind of policies would you want to see to address this concern?
I was saying that I want a policy, that will involve government taking action to stop this. One, the first policy for me is a policy that will ensure that all our hospitals are ready to take inpatients. A policy that will ensure that the test kits, that we have enough capacity
CBN announced
to
that
test. You keep saying CBN is a monetary policy institution.
So
keep
what
saying
do you
CBN.
want to see?
I want you don't seem to be following me. What I'm saying is that government should make an announcement and make it into action through states to provide money to buy kits, to get kits ready for our airports. Is it possible to support our motor parks and all of that? I don't know how you want. If it comes to a palliative for companies, we're coming to that.
What I'm telling you is that isn't that what the CBN announced with the hundreds of billions?
CBN announced
how
some billions of naira intervention fund
to fund research.
To fund. That's not what we need at this point. These are medium to long-term measures. You don't seem to understand what's happening now. We had 4 new cases in Lagos yesterday. A few states are also conjecturing whether there are cases or not. We need to take this. No, we will get serious in this country when we hear, deaths in thousands. So what I'm saying is, how do we, cut the cycle of this? If you look at China now, they seem to be a bit slow now. It will take its toll in Nigeria. How do we curtail it? Okay. How do we stop activities? When we stop activities, how do we make up for the drop, in the economic activities?
You're saying at this point we should start with a shutdown. Is that what you're saying?
We should deal with immediate concern now. In the next 14 days from now we're speaking, next 14 days are very critical. Mark my words. If we get this wrong in the next 14 days, we will have a disaster in this country.
Okay.
God help us. Now, how do we ensure that people joining buses? You can't do 100% security. How do we ensure that buses are controlled? How do we ensure that state governments make sure that people are checked at motor parks, at the airports, and so on? How do we ensure that hospitals are ready? How do we provide isolation centers? These involve government spending. How do we provide? Can we keep out some buildings and equip them? Put air conditioning in them, provide electricity generator and all of that. These are spending.
I was looking for you to give me some economics policy suggestions as an economist. That's where I was headed.
I wouldn't want to go into big grammar in economics here.
No.
We look at practical things we can do. In US, they are doing the same thing.
Okay.
They have provided social welfare funds. They are spending big. In fact, the president, US president announced.
Mr. Adeniji, I mean, when on a daily basis, because now they've announced closure of schools. They've announced that gatherings not more than 50. Ogun State essay on media was here. We did also ask him, how are you going to ensure that when people are home, they won't go to work? There will be a lot of demand on the part of parents. What happens in that circumstance? So he did say, look, we're doing some things, but the policies that the government have announced, we're trying to key into it. We're looking to see how they implement those policies such that they can leverage on that. But as business persons, you are in that industry, if they then say, look, if it gets to the point where, because that's a bit both short-term and long-term measure, this COVID, it's new. Nobody knows how some of these things will eventually end. If it gets to that point where your business will be impacted, what kind of policies do you want to see?
Well, I think the major problem is already Nigeria is a survivor. Nigerians, we are survivors. When there are troubles, we always look at how to go about it. If the government feels that our life matters, sincerely, I tend to agree with what the economist was saying, that the government should look at, one, how do we make sure that there's a relief for, if we close schools, there are possibilities that the parents who are working will need to have a shift, or they have to look for an house help. That is what most of us understand. The children will be at home. You also need to look at the security of the children. Then there will be more spending on the parents. And there are possibilities that if this thing becomes bigger, the prices of food will go up. because production end of food will reduce. The farmers will not be able to go and do anything. Market women will be in trouble, will be in crisis. Do we have already made places where we can buy food if there's shortage?
You know, but what about, I know they talk about formal and informal sector. Now, these policies, because they also announced that, yes, the farmers will access certain loans at, what, 5%, reducing it from what it was before. But we have also a large informal sector. Can these policies get across to them?
Of course not. That's what I'm saying. If you give a farmer loan today to produce, it's going to take a minimum of 2 months, 3 months before the effect of that loan will come out. So that's why I said.
But that doesn't mean they shouldn't do it.
Oh yeah, why not? We should. It should not. What I'm saying is, it shouldn't be when there are problems or crises. That's when we take to fire brigade approach. That's what I first said. That the major problem we have is we have to look back at our policies. It doesn't follow any route.
Now, gentlemen,
Yeah, so that we can be a little more practical because of our time. The Governors Forum is talking about some collaboration to see what they themselves can do. There's a proposition that they want to have some meetings to come up with plans of what they will do at the states level. What would you like to see?
Well, what I would like to see is for the governors to look at their individual, where there's this law of comparative advantage. Like states that knows that they can provide food, the states that believe that they have a lot of people that can support. If there's a synergy among the state governors, I think we can have a reasonable way, maybe out of this. But coronavirus should not. We only be okay, we have a problem at hand, we need to solve it. But if, by chance, we are able to solve this disaster, because it's an impending disaster, if we are able to get across over it, what will be our policy moving forward as a country?
For me, I want the governors to rally all the support they can get from all their billionaires, all their philanthropists, all the religious organizations and everybody, rally them on a round table, present the issues and concerns to them, provide a hotline, an easy line, where every family in their state can reach to say, we are at home, we are locked down, we cannot eat, we need support, give us some money. That could be a way, because Nigeria cannot coordinate that. Governors have to help with that. These same governors and the billionaires in the states and all the philanthropists will also decide where do we place isolation centers in our state. How do we provide kits? How do we provide drugs, the ones that are approved now, whether it's chloroquine or whatever? How do we provide these basic things? How do we ensure that those who are affected are isolated from like I've told you in Nigeria, it's difficult to isolate yourself. How do we provide facilities where these people can be isolated? How do we ensure we have enough medical staff that can care for them? And these staff themselves are also protected and assured that the process will safeguard their lives. This has to be done at the state level. I don't see Nigeria as a country, as the way things are now, coordinating this. Governors should go back to their states, call their billionaires, philanthropists, religious bodies, and all those who can help to do something right now. The next 14 days is very critical.
All right, Oju Demezu is an economist, as well as Mr. Adeyemi Adeniji, investment consultant. Gentlemen, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, back in a moment and see some feedback from you, so stay with us. Got Badon Joshua talking about COVID-19 sites to speedily tame the spread of COVID-19. Lagos State government should ground all activities for at least 14 days to restrict movement in order to halt the spread of the virus. This will also help identify unidentified cases of contact with those who came into the country with the virus.
Yusuf Eleruja, still tweeting about COVID-19 in Nigeria, says inconclusive elections are understandable, but we should not be having an inconclusive COVID-19 test. Well, the doctor did explain they probably didn't have enough, sample, but that this is being done again. It goes on to say that's too sensitive to toy with. The health sector needs to go back to the drawing board.
Well, Sharafa Balogun is also asking the same question. What does it mean that the inconclusive? I believe we already took that. Tobechukun Joku says, COVID-19, we don't clean our phones, but we use them at work and take them everywhere we go to, including to bed. If one washes one's hands without periodically cleaning one's phones with alcohol swab, then we have a problem.
Okay, so I think the Buduku also, well, he spoke a lot in terms of this issue. Thank you for your messages. But you do remember, earlier in the week, while we talked about the unfortunate incidents in Abulado area in Lagos, while the point was made as to those who build or buildings that are occupying right of way of those pipelines. So it didn't start today. We've got one more thing for you.
You talk here about morality and values. Your house, 252 Akinbade Close in Victoria Land, Bashan, is built on a drain that is blocking Iteri Canal and flooding Victoria Land and Iteri. I won't give an appointment to you for those kind of things. You should go and do the right thing.
My house is not built on a drain. You can be free to come and destroy it tomorrow if you like. I bought my house in 1984. It took me 15 years to build it. I had all the approvals. I have worked tirelessly for Lagos State.
Well, that was the governorship debate of March 2011. So that matter also came up about buildings occupying right of way. So it means that, well, who knows? Lots of work to do.
Or how many are there now?
How many are there now?
Over on right of way?
I don't know.
Power lines, pipelines.
So something we need to keep working on. So that's the show today. Thank you all. What a week it's been, and we'll keep tabs on that. So don't forget to wash your hands. Most importantly, sanitizers or not. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Stay safe. Don't panic. But yeah, of course, do all those things. I'm Kaido Kikyolu.
He took the words right out of my mouth. Stay safe.
Which one of them?
Oh. Stay safe.
All right.
So why did you take it back from his mouth then?
I didn't know. I just reiterated it. Am I Omakide? Have a wonderful weekend.